The third part is we wanted to check specifically a few government initiatives. So we wanted to ask if people were aware of the SAS cash transfer program. So a sweeping 92% are aware of it. In terms of how people are perceiving this cash transfer program, so a 91% of the population think it is a great initiative. Reminding you that the federal government, which is initiating it, has a 31% vote bank. Here, 91% are supporting it. We wanted to check how many have received the money themselves. So as many of you may know, the program is targeted towards 12 million households, and the process is still continuing. So in our survey, which happened at least 10 days to 14 days ago, and at that time the number had touched about 2 million to 3 million households had been already dispersed. Um, uh, about 7% said that they have received money themselves, and that corroborates with the numbers that were circulating at that time in terms of how many had actually received. So 7% means about 2.1 million households, and around the fieldwork dates, that was the government supply side number. So in that sense, this particular statistic, we plan to track it to ensure a very crude way of ensuring that people are actually receiving the money. Until now, all data that we have suggests that people are actually receiving it, and people are also perceiving it as a very great initiative. Um, One of the initiatives that the government has taken is a rather controversial one, which is to create a tiger force, which is to be a parallel social movement, and is going to use the power of the youth to deliver government services and government initiatives, including advocacy. But there is also some talk of delivering actual services to the people. The Tiger Force has been controversial because the tiger, in some sense, is a symbol of the PMLN. It is also controversial in the sense that the government, instead of doing it itself, is creating a social movement. Is also feeling that the government is going to give power to its own political party and its political structures. And we wanted to know if people knew about that Tiger Force. The Tiger Force is still in the making. About 900,000 people have registered for it. So we wanted to know if people knew about it. 64% said that they knew about it. If people thought it is a great initiative or good initiative, 75% of the people are supporting it. So the Tiger Force is being supported by almost 2/3 of individuals. So it is this being the most sort of politically conflicted initiative that the government did, and yet the support is 75%. And within this 75%, there are people who are supporters of the People's Party, not the PTI. There are supporters of the PMLN who are yet saying this is a great initiative in large numbers. So we see that the government in general enjoys a very comfortable popularity in terms of the initiatives that it is doing right now. And even its more politically evocative actions are being given a more blanket approval by the people. This could be a risk mitigation method. It is also that these are initiatives that are to benefit the people, so people are not moving beyond that. For them, politics is right now a secondary concern. What is of concern is actual delivery of benefits to them. Um, uh, we also wanted to know if philanthropy was happening other than the government. So Pakistan is one of those countries where in crisis times, the society organizes itself. So a lot of academic work has gone into how Pakistan has been able to sustain many such crises over the past 70 years. We've had in 2005 a very large earthquake leading to death of about 150,000 people and devastation of infrastructure. In 2010, about 10% of the entire mass of Pakistan was inundated. And yet, after many of these shocks, Pakistan is able to resiliently come out. And a lot of people attribute that to people's own social philanthropy that happens at the ground level. So we wanted to know if that philanthropy was happening. Our hypothesis being also that maybe in this particular crisis, this may be happening less because the economy has slowed down enormously. And before the corona hit, it had slowed down almost by a half from the growth numbers that were there a year before. And then the crisis comes in, and it affects not just the poor, but the industrialists who are unable to open up their shops, and the businessmen, even the expat community who's affected in their own hometowns across the world. So we thought that the corona crisis may be a little different from the previous ones, where only the poorer segments of society were being affected, and the other society members were able to jump back to work. And the result here suggests that only one third are saying that there is any activity other than the government in order to provide the relief. And I would think that this is a very important, crucial reminder that that in many ways the rescue effort that anyone is doing is the government itself, and relying on or thinking that there are other ways of help for the individuals may not be very true this time around. So it's a crucial piece of information as the government thinks how much it needs to do, or the donor community thinks how much it needs to do, because it seems that the social philanthropy from within Pakistan is fairly limited this time around. But it's a number that we are continuously tracking. It's also true that the crisis has only started to begin to be felt in grander ways, and maybe the social philanthropy would crop in. But our original hypothesis also stand that this may be affecting even the rich, and therefore their expectation about the future is poor, and philanthropy is from a disposable income that anyone has, and therefore it may be affected. We wanted to also, so there has been a lot of economic impact assessment of corona. So Pakistan Institute of Development Economics has done some work looking at labor, suggesting that about 18 million people could lose their job or could have lost their job. There is a number attributed to Dr. Hafiz Pasha and Dr. Kardar, which suggests about 3 to 4 million people losing their jobs. There are estimates from the IMF and the World Bank which suggest that Pakistan may be heading towards a recession. First time in 70 years, almost 70 years. The only time that the number was actually negative was in 1952, which was not the case for the West and East Pakistan combined, but retrospectively, when we look at West Pakistan, the number was in. So the economic turmoil is a very devastating one. And my personal opinion, and which is not Gallup's opinion, is that even though the government has been doing quite a lot, the effort at the government level is also not very commensurate with the devastation that we see coming. So we wanted to come up with some economic impact that was not at the business level, at the very economically, at the micro household level. And to some extent a social understanding of economy as well. So the social number is, did you reduce the number or size of meals for some household members because of the corona issue? And about a quarter of people, quarter of households are suggesting that they have reduced the size of the meal that they are offering to household members, so that they are able to save enough for the future. So this adds to about 6.9 million households who may have started to ration up on food, not just because the food line is going to get stopped, but also because they don't have enough money to buy food, and therefore they've started to ration. As we all know, whenever food is talked about, the lack of food affects different genders, different segments of society very differently. So within households, if these 23% of the households are now rationing food, the effect of that could be more adverse for female members of the household, for the younger people in the household, and it requires significant attention in terms of providing food aid to these people, or creating direct measures. So the government of Pakistan has come up with utility stores offering subsidized food, but the total subsidy is into the tune of 7 billion rupees, which is a very small amount. And also that the utility stores have only a network of about 5,000 to 7,000 stores. Here we have 28 million adults who are food insecure, and 6.9 million households. So those 7,000 stores may not be adequate to reach out to these people who are now becoming food insecure. We have uh, people who say that they are relying now on less preferred and less expensive food. Again, a quarter of people are saying that. People who are saying that they have borrowed from a friend or a relative to cover their household basic needs. About one-fifth are saying that they have borrowed from a friend or a relative to pay for their basic needs. So this adds to about 24 million people who are now digging into. Not only they have dug into their own savings, now they are digging into and asking for help from others in the community. Um, we have people who are saying that they're using their savings in the banks and in cash. We have people who are saying that they are looking for additional work. So about 10% people are looking for additional work in order to compensate for the effects of corona. And people who are relying on NGO assistance or government assistance, so about only 10% are saying that they are currently relying on government assistance or NGO assistance. And lastly, if you have sold assets to meet your basic needs, so we have 6% of Pakistani households who are saying that they have sold in recent times an asset to ensure that their basic needs are met. So this adds to about 7.2 million adults who are saying, about 1.8 million households who are saying that they have sold some asset. So to couple all of this together, it appears that the real sort of ground level impact of the economic crisis is now starting to get felt by the people in enormous ways. It should be remembered that Pakistan is a very poor country, and we are among the low income countries in the world. Before the savings that an average household has is also very small. So if you look at the government data, it suggests that only a 3,000 rupee saving happens by a normal household in a month. The lockdown has continued for more than a month now. And imagine the situation where someone has only 3,000 of the saving from the last month that is available, and now there is no earning whatsoever, and he has to sustain even the minimal expenditure. So that's why we see that people have used up their saving, and now they're starting to ask other people. People are starting to save on food, and so the situation is on the brink. I mean, it hasn't. For a lot of people, the brink has crossed, but for a large majority, they are standing on the brink. So that brings in the question of time and action. And our data suggests that the government action needs to happen now. So the lockdown has continued. So smart lockdown ways to open up some segments of the lockdown, they need to happen now before people people's ability to cope or mitigate the economic disaster is also completely let down. In the last section, before I stop, we wanted to also check up on how is there a silver lining to the corona crisis, and is there are people um, also seeing some positive effects of it? Everyone is spending so much time at home. So we asked people if they thought the lockdown has improved their family life. Close to majority are saying yes, that's true. So the economy is not happening, but the family life is improving for now. I have had more spare time to contemplate spiritually. So about 60% are saying that. I've been able to concentrate more on my health. 50-50, I'm grateful for the extra time that is available. 42% are saying that. And 69% of the people are saying that they think that the lockdown has helped the environment. I look at it from two ways. So it's definitely a positive change in the environment and people are noticing it. But it also points to the fact that even an average Pakistani also notices the devastating effect of the economic activity causing pollution, transportation causing pollution, general lack of cleanliness across the. So this the among all the things that we tested, that's the largest message that people say yes to. So 69%, 7 in 10 Pakistanis are feeling that the lockdown has helped improve the environment. So it also tells how bad the environment was before the corona crisis hit. Um, Yet we also wanted to know what was the predominant mood that people had in the 7 days. So we have all been in the lockdown for many weeks now. How is that lockdown affecting people's psychology and people's thinking about the future? So we asked which of the following best describes your mood in the past 7 days. There are the happy people, so about 30%, 3 in 10 Pakistanis who are saying, despite all of these hardships, I was predominantly happy in the past 7 days. And then another 70% are saying either they were bored, another 24%, 21% saying sad, 17% stress, anger, and loneliness. So very in terms of the mood of the country. So in some sense, this poll is a gauge of the mood of Pakistan. The mood of Pakistan is overwhelmingly sad and stressed and angered and lonely, as almost a majority are saying these very negative emotions. And as the government thinks on making plans, it needs to really think on these as well. So to provide for the for economic sustenance is one thing, but to provide for a hope for the future, so that people felt more hopeful and less sad and stressed and angered, is also partly our collective responsibility. If you look at the numbers in terms of the divide across genders, you look at how the stress is significantly more being felt by females. And I wanted to also mention this, that at least this is something that I feel, is that the stress, the burden of all of the corona activities and is happening is significantly more for females in the household. So we have children who are not going to school. So about 40 million Pakistani children attend school on a daily basis. All of those children are at home. We're talking about a household of 6.6 individuals. So each one of those 6.6 individuals is within the house. The males in the house are not leaving. So they need to be attended to. Children need to be attended to. And together with it is the stress of economy going down, and therefore women who manage the household budget needing to spend less on food. And then the overall depressing situation with respect to lockdown, people being unable to meet each other. So the psychological aspect of Corona is something that that hasn't been really taken into account that much by the policymakers, and our data suggests that it needs to be taken into. It's also a matter of how it's also a matter of containment of the issue, because if people are very desperately negatively affected emotionally about corona, sooner or later they would come out on the streets, and the our activities around social distancing would then be defeated. So emotions are crucial and fundamental for any policy to be addressing, but they have a functional understanding, for functional role to play as well. And from both point of views, the government needs to be doing a much better job at this.